This video is my reaction to the Lions' 37-24 win over the Bengals in Cincinnati in Week 5. Finally shrugged off a pesky Bengals effort, 21 points scored in the fourth quarter to make it close. But fortunately, Goff's third touchdown, this one the 12-yarder to Tesla with a little over 5 minutes left, makes it 35-17 and finishes off Detroit's fourth consecutive win. A brilliant play from Derek Barnes kind of capped it. The sack in the end zone, that it's a safety. He basically runs through or runs around, I should say. Rookie left guard Dylan Fairchild. Hutchinson also almost had a safety, I think, in the first half that was negated. Barnes finished this one off finally. I don't know about you, but I was kind of frustrated by it. It eventually gave me a headache in the fourth quarter. Just kind of reminding me of so many Ravens games where we have a big lead and then forfeit it in the fourth quarter. Just the inability to put away a Bengals side that, you give them credit. They played hard, defensively especially. And, of course, they've got significant talent remaining in wide receivers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Statistically, Detroit outgained Cincinnati 367-322. Before the late kneel downs and the run from Montgomery, they were averaging 6.3 yards per play, so I think it's a little bit less than that, like 6.17 or something like that. Over 100 yards on the ground, that does look good, but the resistance was there for much of the game for the Bengals. There's a lot to enjoy and discuss, mostly good. I think the Lions could have got this team out of there earlier and finished them off. The sacks off the left side were more than an annoyance to me. Talking about the strip sack from Trey Hendrickson. He also beat a tight end, Brock Wright, in a blocking scheme that I think's been exploited twice in recent weeks, maybe 3 times on the year. And then you had the fourth quarter sack by Joseph Asai, again against Giovanni Manu. I thought Detroit kind of played with their food a little bit today, if you will. Some missed opportunities in the first half offensively, and then a few instances of lacking discipline. The 3rd and 14 touchdown to Chase in the fourth quarter. That was tough to watch, and it'll be tough for me to talk about because I like Amik Robertson so much. He's one of my favorite players. He went for the sluggo concept, gave up a 64-yarder, looked like kind of like a cover 3, or maybe it was a quarter half, cover 6 variation. The point was the defense was playing well, so was Amik to that point. The offense had been the somewhat disappointing side, being handed great field position multiple times, I think, in the second quarter and even once in the second half. But then the defense, the secondary, kind of started to run on fumes in the fourth quarter with DJ Reed out. Terrion Arnold left the field on a cart today. Rock Ya-Sin fought through things, played well, in fact, I think. I thought he originally had a forced fumble, and then it turned out it was Jack Campbell. But in any case, Ya-Sin really provided resistance against Higgins and Chase when he was matched up with them. I don't know about you. I was just glad to see Detroit get out of there with a win today. And then with no serious injuries reported, at least as I understand it. The run game did get going in the second half, but initially I think 15 carries for 40 yards in the first 30 minutes. The Bengals, I know, added a late touchdown to get to 35-24 when Detroit's defense, I think, is almost running out of available players. I get it. No one wants to hear this, but in my opinion, there needs to be a reinforcement on that side. This style of play is working for Kelvin Shepherd. He's doing a great job. I believe they've given up 112 points in 5 games, so a solid number. I think it's like 22.5 per game. As a Ravens fan, I'm jealous for real because the Lions play what I would consider to be a Ravens style. They play very aggressive in terms of effort, tenacity, flying around, and just in general, like we're showing up to kick your ass mentality. That's the team that Dan Campbell wants, and that's what he certainly got. But I will tell you, I wonder about wearing out available guys with this man-centric style, and it is working. Again, so they're not going to deviate from it. I get it. And that's why I say I hope for some reinforcement on the defensive side to help them out. I'm not talking about a Trey Hendrickson or something like that, but the Bengals scored 21 points today in the fourth quarter, and it was all through the air. Whether we're talking about a defensive end to help Aiden Hutchinson out in the pass rush because there's nobody else getting things done there, or someone to help in coverage, a corner, basically. I think there's a lag in recognition here. I may be ahead of the concerns, but I'm not wrong. I get it. No one wants to hear it on a day when you move to 4-1, but I'm seeing a defense that is playing really hard and exceptionally well, executing what Kelvin Shepherd is asking them to do. So I've got no complaints there. I like what he's doing and the way that he's getting things accomplished. I think the margin for error could be widened with a talent boost either at defensive end or coverage on the back end. And I'm just going to be blunt with it. In Terrion Arnold, I do not see a guy who is disciplined or capable of playing 60 minutes without significant negative plays if he's exposed if he's put in man coverage situations consistently, which is the style of play that Detroit wants to utilize. I thought Terrion Arnold competed today. Having said that, I hope his injury's not serious and he's available for next week. But with DJ Reed out, and then Ya-Sin stepping out a little bit in the second half there, I don't know about you. It seemed to me to be obvious at that point. Trey Flowers, fortunately, is a guy who he generally played like matched up against tight ends and almost a nickel/dime linebacker position when he played with the Bengals for a couple years. And he was good at it, don't get me wrong. To my knowledge, he's not an outside corner consistently. And so when I say a talent boost, that's what I mean. Heading into the Kansas City game and then on the road against a Bucs team that's 4-1, I would expect the front office to look into it. You may not have the same level of concern as I do, but I'm telling you up front, it's a big one for me. I think that Shepard and the guys on that side of the ball, they deserve it. I don't want to see injuries short-circuit how he can call plays and try to get stops. I don't think Campbell and him are going to move off of the strategy that they've relied on. It's working. I get it that most of you are probably just pleased with another win. Your +2 turnover margin today, and to me, you'd like to have that game finished off earlier. There's other factors, don't get me wrong. I don't believe the margin for error should be that small against Jake Browning on a day when you're +2 in turnover margin. But I get it that a lot of you guys are probably not in the same boat as I am. This team's goals are and should be a Super Bowl. I'm just struggling to really have any level of trust in Terrion Arnold if he's got to be out there for extended periods of time. And I recognize that most of you guys, will not enjoy hearing that. But even when he's healthy, if he's on the field 40, 45 snaps, and you hope that most of those are pass plays because you're shutting down or stopping the run, I think he's going to put himself in obvious penalty situations 2 to 3 times at minimum. And that's just the way I see it based on what I'm seeing during the games and when I watch the film. Forgive me if it's too direct or too honest for you. And anyway, in any case, Detroit was able to get to 4-1, and they withstood that late barrage. Fortunate to recover that onside kick. I didn't think the onside kick went 10 yards, and it looked like maybe it would have been a little too slow to perhaps actually get there, but, it could be wrong. I thought the kicker for Cincinnati actually almost fell on it. Let's talk about some of the guys that really played well today. Jack Campbell had another badass game. 11 tackles. I believe he forced the fumble out in space that originally it looked like Rock Ya-Sin was the guy who knocked it out. The Bengals recovered it. I think it's in the third quarter. Barnes had the late sack. He absolutely deserves a film study video for how he's playing. Tremendous effort, the safety late in the game, but also in coverage into the boundary. If you are interested in what my thoughts used to be on Barnes, I think I did a film study video on him heading into the 2024 season, early, before he got hurt. Very versatile guy. And I think, what I have to say in that video, if you go check it out, I'll link it up in the description, will line up with whatever I put out Monday or into Monday night on Barnes. Ya-Sin was battling out there. Have to give him credit. He played for the Ravens in 2023. Didn't live up to what I was hoping. I thought his film looked good coming into that year and just wasn't able to be a factor, and eventually got outplayed and pushed out of his role by Ronald Darby. Branch plays like a linebacker in that cover 2 man, and I really am looking forward to highlighting that coverage as best as I can this week. If you're not familiar with what cover 2 man, or what we generally refer to as 2 man, it's man on everyone with 2 high safety structure deep, and then usually a 4-man pass rush. Against the Ravens, Detroit played 2 man, but it was a 3+1 spy. 3 guys rushing and then 1 spy. Sometimes it was Derek Barnes, sometimes it was Nowatzki, etc. What makes it go, Branch and Joseph are great back there, but what really makes it go is Alex Anzalone's ability to play tight ends in man, to cover them consistently such that Branch and Joseph don't have to be allocated down to cover the tight end. And I did think Anzalone's DPI call today on a 4th down pass to Gesicki was kind of weak. He did grab the wrist. Didn't look catchable to me, but that coverage is really paying dividends for the Lions. And I have to bring this back up to you. If you can get home with a 4-man rush, then that 2-man coverage that Shepard wants to use in obvious passing situations becomes even more effective. Because now you've got 2 guys, if theoretically, that can get to the quarterback consistently in Hutchinson and someone else. And right now, you just don't have that, in my opinion. But two-man is really effective against quarterbacks who are not mobile. And again, if you have a consistent pass rush with four guys, it can disrupt the pocket, and then your safeties, Branch and Joseph, can react quickly to routes. They did a great job of it today for the most part. I really liked how Shepard is utilizing that coverage. I believe Hutchinson only goes down as officially having one sack today, but there was two others wiped away by penalty, if memory served. One early in the game was on himself for lining up off sides, and the other, I think, was a hold on Terrion Arnold in coverage, but I might be wrong there. In any case, cover two-man, or what I said, coaches generally call two-man, has been really effective. And Branch coming downhill on the first crosser, the first in-cut, is really causing quarterbacks problems. I thought that Cincinnati tried to adjust later in the game, and they when they suspected it was two-man, that's when they went to Gesicki against Anzalone, because basically the safeties, Kirby and Branch, are helping take away the first cut by the receivers. So great job, if you ask me, of Detroit imposing their style on a Cincinnati passing attack that's consistent. What I mean by consistent is it's consistent in intention and approach. Whether it's Burrow back there or Browning, they like to throw the ball downfield, and that two-man coverage, I thought, made them go to secondary or even third-level options from a passing concept standpoint. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. But in any case, that'll be definitely one of the videos I'll try to get out for you guys Monday night or perhaps into Tuesday afternoon. Detroit's now 3-0 in consecutive weeks, I think, against the AFC North. And the Lions have been the more physical team in each of those three matchups. Have to give a hat tip or recognize, the Browns' defense deserves some mention for how they played in the first half of the matchup against Detroit in Detroit last week. Certainly they were very physical. Outside of that, I feel like the Lions have been the more physical team in all 12 quarters. Let's say 10 of the 12 quarters against the AFC North. The Browns' MO, again, got kind of revealed this week. Compete or in fact, in some cases, dominate early and then fall off in the second half. That same dynamic existed with Detroit last week. However, this week, Detroit kind of faded off in the fourth quarter, which was really weird to see them give up 21 points. I mean, yes, there's two unbelievable plays from Jamar Chase. There's the sluggo route for the touchdown against Amik that I said I was disappointed in, and then the great catch running across the field. He actually lined up in the backfield on that and kind of split out as a widely aligned running back. So unique stuff, if you ask me. But again, Detroit, I think, forced them into those situations. Chase finished with 6 catches, the 2 touchdowns, 110 yards, but it did take 10 targets to get that done. Detroit finishes with the 2 sacks, I believe. Hutchinson and Barnes. But they did definitely take advantage of Jake Browning today. He throws 3 interceptions. I think 2 of them are in the first half, maybe 1 in the third quarter. I felt some level of relief when Barnes gets the sack to ensure the win and say, okay, now it's on to Kansas City on the road, which is going to be, it's really interesting to me, some of the teams early in the season that are getting home games in the good-on-good matchups. Packers and Lions. Bills, well, I'm not going to include the Ravens as a good team now, certainly. But when the schedule makers assigned those games, there's a lot of teams that are being given favorable matchups at home early in the season. In any case, let's focus on Detroit's offense for a moment. They certainly left points or high percentage opportunities out on the field. Goff did, however, go 19 of 23 passing, 258 yards and the 3 touchdowns. He got sacked 4 times. 2 of those wins, I thought, were directly against Manu. Something to focus on there, or at least pay attention to, and beyond is Manu's effectiveness as a left tackle against some of the guys he'll face if Decker's going to be out for a while. I understand it's a shoulder injury, and it's something they try to monitor on a week-by-week basis. Montgomery and Gibbs combined for 30 carries. Didn't really dominate the yards per carry standpoint from a team perspective, 3.6 yards per carry on the ground. Montgomery also threw that really cool touchdown to Brock Wright. I think it's early in the second quarter. Wildcat play from John Morton where he splits out Goff out wide. So no one was expecting it. I will say this, Daryl Johnston was on it. I think it was Daryl Johnston referenced him being a high school quarterback as they were lining up. So credit, there seemed to be some level of preparation in the announcers today. I did not like late first quarter, or maybe the bridge between the first and second quarter, where they spent a ton of time talking about Johnston and Emmitt Smith and their playing days. I get it. I'm old enough to remember it. Some of you may be, but there's a lot of young fans who are not. And I just wonder if you're kind of losing attention or decreasing the level of quality of the broadcast by focusing so much on those guys. But in any case, St. Brown was his usual self, 8 of 9 catches to targets, 100 yards on the dot. I don't think he had a touchdown. Sam Laporta did. Really exploited the Bengals' boundary side coverages early. They were dropping defensive ends in coverage often, and that just was not productive early in the game. Laporta took advantage early and often. First possession was badass, and then he dives into the end zone for a touchdown to put him up 7-0. Overall for the day, Laporta 5 catches on 6 targets, 92 yards, the opening TD, like I said, to cap a dominant drive. Tesla puts his second career touchdown down on the map, a 12-yarder that makes it 35-17. I think it's just over 5 minutes left, and we all thought, or at least I did, okay, that one puts the game away. And then unfortunately, Browning takes Cincinnati right downfield and produces a short touchdown to Higgins. Now, Higgins was very inefficient on the day, 3 catches on 7 targets. I thought 2 of those were against Yasin, and there was 1 against Arnold, who had at least 4 or 5 good coverage snaps today, don't get me wrong, but my level of trust in him is drastically different from it was earlier in the season, to the point now where I wonder if Yasin isn't just a better option if everyone's healthy. But thankfully, the ensuing onside kick after the touchdown to Higgins was recovered by, I believe, Thomas Harper, the special teams expert. I would like to think that Dan Campbell is somewhat disappointed in this performance. I don't have the availability to watch or listen to post-game press conferences because I'm usually creating these videos for you guys. But being in control 28-3 through 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter was extended so much that guys started to wear down. I thought during a stoppage in play, I looked at Detroit's defense, and I saw some tired guys standing there. Like I said, especially on defense, which is where I think there should be some consideration of a reinforcement. Doesn't have to be a big-name guy, like I said, and I understand the salary cap implications because of the tough spot they're in for 2026, and so many players. You would like to retain as many of them as possible, the young guys. So anything not used this year could roll over to next year. Fine, I understand all of that. But if you want the best chance possible to win a Super Bowl and stand up in a 60-minute game against a Patrick Mahomes, talking about a Super Bowl situation, against a Josh Allen, or in the NFC against a Jaden Daniels or a Jalen Hurts, whatever. I think Kelvin Shepard, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, I think those guys deserve some help. I do. I get it, though. There could be a need at offensive line pending Decker's the severity of what he's dealing with his shoulder and whether it improves or we get basically this situation every week. We'll talk about the first drive a little bit when Detroit goes down and take a 7-0 lead. They didn't face a third down at all. 7 plays, maybe it was 8, but I think it was 7 plays, 58 yards. The touchdown to Laporta, him kind of juking one guy, I believe, and then flipping into the end zone. There's a D-end in coverage, and Laporta really just outruns him. That happens 3 times in this game early in this game, I should say, where D-ends are out in coverage. The Lions really, I thought, were in a position to take this game over early. Defense gets a stop despite the sack on Hutchinson on their first possession. I love that low stance that Hutchinson's in. I did a film study video on him last week. If you guys want to check it out, I'll link it up in the description. Also, Kirby Joseph on the first possession with a tackle just out of bounds, or maybe it was totally out of bounds. He also challenged the completion to Higgins. And then there's 2 guys in zone on a second down play. My point is everything was challenged. Everything was being disrupted for the Bengals early on. Amik finished that first possession on defense with a tackle on a screen to Chase Brown, the running back for the Bengals, on a 3rd and 15. And then Detroit wasted their second possession. Manu is one-on-one with Hendrickson when they finally got in field goal range. And I don't know about you, man, those first 2 or 3 possessions, the way Goff was throwing the ball decisively, I'm like, just keep throwing. Just keep throwing the football. But I think, again, to Daryl Johnston, to give him credit, he covered it. The running back has got to help out Manu there. Just a total differential in talent level. Hendrickson is, for my money, one of the best guys in the league at getting after the quarterback, meaning top 5. I don't do a good job of ranking players. It's really a waste of my time to do so. But if you forced me to say who's the top 5 pass rushers in the league, Trey Hendrickson is one of them. I've seen him in Cincinnati since 2001. When he signed with the Bengals in 2001, I did a film study video of him from his time with the Saints, and I was like, how come this guy isn't talked about more? This was before 2021. They come to Baltimore in like week 6 or week 7 and kick our ass, and Trey Hendrickson is on the field. He looked like one of the best 3 or 4 players on the field that day, and since then, my opinion of him really hasn't changed. So it bothers me a little bit that Manu was left one-on-one with him in that situation. It was a sack and then a fumble sack, strip sack, I should say. I thought the Lions really wasted an opportunity to create a 14-0 lead. I did like them aggressively throwing, but Hendrickson, one of the best in the league at getting to the quarterback and impacting the game. To me, a little bit of a tactical mistake. Some of my notes from the first half that I thought it was disappointing. Detroit was only up 14-3. Kirby had his 20th interception of his career. Really should be talked about more, in my opinion. Thankfully, again, the broadcast. This is one of the broadcasts I actually enjoyed the most. I'm not a huge fan of most NFL broadcasts that only have a 2-man booth. I feel like there should be a defensive player in there to bring some balance. But they showed Kirby's stats lining up with Ed Reed, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Finally, someone talking about the guy the way that they should with what he's been able to accomplish. Directly related to the style of defense that the Lions play. I get it. A lot of man coverage. Kirby can read the quarterback. He can sit back there and read, but he deserves credit for it. He's gone out there and got the interceptions. 20th interception of his career. Anzalone added one in the second half. Goff was sharp early. 11 of 14 through 30 minutes, 132 yards, including the touchdown to Laporta. Some of my notes from halftime, and then a couple of observations overall. Detroit's defense was playing with so much intensity that it really didn't look like the Bengals' offense was prepared for that level of physicality and commitment. They were, whether it was in coverage, whether it was taking on blocks, rushing the passer, everyone for Detroit's defense is committed to what they're doing. They, I think they forced 4 punts during the first half, had the 2 interceptions. I might be wrong there. But unfortunately, the offense wasted a lot of it. The offense technically for Detroit punted 4 times in the second quarter. I don't think that'll happen another time this year. Now, the first of which really was attributed to the first quarter, a failed 3rd and long on the last play of the first quarter, and then they punt on the opening play of the second period. I'm not saying that they legitimately had 4 possessions that they wasted, but 4 punts in the second quarter I think gives you an idea of not taking advantage of getting the ball twice in the Bengals' half of the field. Browning threw 2 interceptions inside of his own 50. I thought Browning was really ineffective early to the point that if they had anyone else competent, they might consider going to them. And boy, obviously I was wrong. He threw 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but initially, first half, 14 of 23 passing, 86 yards, and 2 interceptions, one of which was the great play by Amik and then the fly ball that Kirby snagged. Special teams today definitely deserve some mention. The punts by Jack Fox were incredible. I believe 3 of them are down inside the 10-yard line. I may have the number wrong there. The one from Tesla is amazing. Him being able to smack the ball back into play as he's falling into the end zone. And that one, I believe, directly led to a score in the second half. Very fortunate to get that onside recovery. I wonder, with the new kickoff rules, which I personally detest, if it makes onside kicks more difficult to prepare for or execute because a team is never in that formation. So if you're never used to getting off the football when the ball is kicked, then how often are you going to be expected to do that in a game? Not very often. So it's really interesting to me the effect that the new kickoff rules could have on onsides. I think it's 1 for 19 this year in terms of recovered and overall onside kicks attempted. With the defense playing this very connected style, I don't think it's fair to say there's no stars. That's a real poor phrase because Kirby's on a historic track with interceptions. I think Brian Branch and Aiden Hutchinson start for pretty much every team in the league. Nonetheless, it'll be a big test next week against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not the same level of team that made it to the Super Bowl last year offensively. Their defense is their core. Kansas City's defense has been the core of their team dating 2+ seasons, in fact, dating back to their Super Bowl win in 2022 against the Eagles. So next week's game will be a battle of styles. I think that Kansas City will be intimately prepared for certain situations that Detroit presents, but John Morton does a great job, just like Ben Johnson did, of lining up in a certain formation, but giving you 3 or 4 or even 5 plays from that formation. Basically, just when you see Jared Goff line up in a formation, that doesn't mean anything. And it really doesn't mean anything on down and distance. I don't know about you. There was 2 situations today, like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, where and Detroit's got the ball, and I'm like, okay, this might be a run. And Bengals fans are probably not prepared for this because they certainly don't have awareness of it like you guys do and I do. The Chiefs will. And it'll be a contrast in styles. The Chiefs are very balanced from a man versus zone perspective. And, of course, Detroit right now, just like they did under Aaron Glenn, is relying on a man coverage style that what Kansas City tries to do is run pick or rub or scheme concepts consistently to exploit man coverage. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, let me know which film study videos you'd like to see me focus on for Monday. The film typically comes out quite early in the morning, and I can get right to attacking it by 9 or 10 a.m. and try to get videos out starting around noon. I did a video on Jack Campbell last week. I'm not sure that I'll lead off with something like that, even though he had 11 tackles, 1 forced fumble. I think made another great play on a screen, just like he did last week against David Njoku. For my money, Jack Campbell was playing as good at inside linebacker as anyone I get to watch. The 2 that I get to watch, and I think the highest of right now from a Mike linebacker standpoint, is Jack Campbell and Ernest Jones IV for the Seattle Seahawks. I haven't seen Seattle's game from today. They lost 38-35 to the Bucs. I try to watch that late at night typically. But I probably won't lead off with a Jack Campbell video. I'd like to start with something on Derek Barnes and probably the cover 2 man that Kelvin Shepard is relying on obvious third down pacing situations. In any case, you guys let me know what you think of the video in the comment section, what you think of my thoughts of Kelvin Shepard's defense playing at a high level, but I'm going to reiterate and go on record again, a talent infusion is needed. It will go a long way towards helping them out over there, helping them to maybe even raise their level, because I like Rock Ya-Sin, I like Muhammad. Those guys are O'Connor. They're at a talent deficit compared to other guys who get on the field a similar amount of snaps. Basically, Ya-Sin had to start and play this week. To me, and I like Ya-Sin again, I like this film. Prior to coming to Baltimore, it was not nearly as good in 2023 as I expected. He played well today, so maybe he likes Detroit's system, maybe he likes their style. And I think this defense is good enough to beat anyone, as is. But I'd like to see a little bit wider margin for error on days like this, where the offense doesn't take advantage of things that are virtually handed to you like the first half. And that leads me into my final point, that next week's game against the Chiefs, it may become more obvious to some of you that the defense needs a talent infusion, either from a coverage standpoint or a defensive end who can rush the passer when you want to play 2-man and give Aiden Hutchinson and someone else the best chance to get to the quarterback and make a big play. In any case, I appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and commenting. And then finally, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy my thoughts on this game, I went on a little bit longer than typical in this reaction video, but if you think other Lions fans would enjoy it, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.